name is Robert Luke. I'm one of the SAG after actors here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've only been here
like 3.5 years, and I so love it. I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about your moderator. First of all, you're going to have questions, a time for questions and answers after the presentation, but I'm going to pose a question for him to think about as he's presenting to you as a moderator. I'm looking at his bio, and there's no way that one person could have done all of this in one lifetime. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. So I'm thinking there, and I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'll tell you. This isn't an audition, man. No. He's got a twin brother somewhere that's doing half of this shit. So our moderator, he's an executive producer, audio post-production expert, and founder of Triple Tone Audio Post, an award-winning sound facility dedicated to advancing New Mexico's media industry. He began his audio post-production journey way back in 2001 on the animated series The Kellys, following earlier roles at major tech companies like Apple, Avid, and Opcode. After founding Triple Tone Studios in 2005, he produced music projects and promoted the independent band Batwings for Lab Rats, securing a landmark performance at the Las Vegas Playboy Club. He's an active contributor to the local film industry, having worked on projects ranging from Sunshine Cleaning and the Emmy-nominated series American Primeval to the feature film Resball, which he also collaborated on Dene language translation. Currently, as the post-producer and music supervisor for the feature No Place, he is also producing the original soundtrack with his local band. Yes, Spitfire Fly. Got one of your groupies right there in the front row. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our moderator, Mr. Jason Wolf.
All right, great. Glad to be here. We just got one thing to show you guys on the screen, then we'll get started. So thank you all for attending our center stage discussion. Today we are talking about film and music, two of my most favorite things, and how striking the perfect chord together happens. I am proud to be moderating this panel. We got some very knowledgeable and experiential panelists here joining me. I first want to introduce Ching-Shan. She is a Los Angeles-based composer who has made significant mark in both film and concert music. She has collaborated with Hollywood composers such as Tom Hockenborg and Benjamin Wolfish on major productions like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and 3, HBO's It, Welcome to Derry, and Netflix Rebel Moon films. Her diverse work spans studios, television, and live performances, including scoring the 2024 film Laws of Man, which stars Harvey Keitel, and was featured at a prominent film festivals around the world like Santa Fe and Newport Beach International Film Festivals. She is the first Asian female composer to win the Golden Eye at the International Zurich Film Music Competition for her work on Danny and the Wild Bunch. Yes. Woo, that's quite an honor right there. Her music for Elsewhere, A Flor Azul, was screened at the 71st Cannes Film Festival. Beyond her film scores, she has received commission from major ensembles, including the National Taiwan Symphony Orchestra, and her compositions have been featured at high-profile events like Taiwan's National Day Ceremony. Let's hear it for Xinjiang. And here on the far side of the couch, we have Rick Clark. Rick Clark is a highly respected music professional from Memphis, Tennessee, with a career spanning several decades as a music supervisor, producer, author, and journalist. His passion for music began in his youth, listening to everything from classic rock and R&B to jazz and blues. He started his career working in Memphis record shop, playing in bands, and DJing on local radio. Over the years, Clark has become a well-known music curator and consultant. He has written for prominent publications like Rolling Stone and Billboard magazine, and authored several books including Mixing, Recording, and Producing Techniques of the Pros. As a music supervisor, his notable credits include Up in the Air, the AMC series Hell on Wheels, and Dark Winds here in Albuquerque. For all of this, he has earned a Guild of Music Supervisors Award nomination in 2024. His production and compilation work extends to releases for major artists and his celebrated work on the award-winning music CDs for Oxford American Magazine. Clark has also released his own music with projects like the cinematic Crack in the Sky and the disco-inspired Disco Slam. He currently hosts a weekly radio show called Air Conditioned on WYXR-FM. Did I do that right, Rick? All right, and here on my left here we have the amazing Shaun Hettinger. After fronting buzzworthy NYC and LA bands for 17 years, Shaun Hettinger's career exploded upon moving to Albuquerque in 2016, where he composed the theme song for Netflix's first ever nightly talk show, the Chelsea Handlers' Chelsea. So now composing TV and film score out of his Neon Moon Studios, Hettinger works with clients like Amazon, YouTube, MTV, Gatorade, Revlon, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, the Hallmark Channel, and many other notable works. He just released his score for the recent Madonna-themed documentary Smelly Little Town.
This is an old bio.
This is the this is the one you s-
This is not the one I sent.
Okay.
This is the one I sent 4 years ago. But okay, keep going.
All right, so yeah, we're doing the time machine here. Fast forward, what can you tell us about right now? What are you working on right now?
Right now, I just wrapped on a feature documentary called Rotten Apple, which is made by New Mexico, Albuquerque director-producer Justin Hunt. And I got a couple of things in the works I'm going to keep mum on for now, but I am working on another solo album called Phil Collins' Divorce Album. I'm working on my Phil Collins' Divorce album. I've released music as Memory with 2 Ys, so it's like electropop, it's synthy, it's all that stuff. It's Phil Collins adjacent.
Great. Well, thank you, Shaun. So these are our panelists today. So we're going to get right into it. And we have 2 segments here with this panel. The first segment is going to be music and film and cross-pollination. So Ching-Shan, I want to ask you a question. How do you navigate between film scoring and concert music, and what cross-pollination happens between the two?
So I started as a classical trained composer and also a pianist. And one day I just woke up and I thought the setting of audience clapping after a performance is a little boring and just everyone's doing the same thing. So I thought, how do I engage the audience a little more? And how do I make the concert a little more memorable to each audience member? So then I started putting a box outside of the concert hall where everyone can just write a melody, and then I'll randomly draw one and then improvise it into a complete piece of music. And that's where I started. And then I started doing more and more variations, such as asking an audience member to come up stage and recite me a poem or tell me a story while I accompany on the piano, or show me a painting. So I think in a way that's already scoring to something. So I even without realizing, I have probably been doing this for a while before I feel like I'm ready to start doing it. But the real transition point was when I wanted to challenge myself to write a piece like Schindler's List. It's called in History in Memory, and with that one I actually wrote the script first, and then I wrote music to the script, and that was a really important, crucial turning point for me, going into film music. That piece is still being performed by a lot of orchestras in Taiwan and also in America. And then fast forward, I was fortunate enough to start interning with a Hollywood composer, Junkie XL, and that's how my career in film music starts accelerating.
Okay, so you used your trained ear as a musician and the way you can pick up a melody even when somebody else gives it to you, and then you spun that and cross-pollinated that into determining the emotion from printed word. And so that's exactly what we're talking about with the cross-pollination of musicians. We're all musicians here, but your Golden Eye win broke barriers as the first Asian female composer to receive that award. So how do you see your work influencing greater representation and visibility in both film and concert music? Sure, yeah. It's how do you see your work influencing basically visibility for diversity and inclusion in your current work?
That's the constant struggle I have whenever I walk into a room, or I was lucky to attend Emmys a few weeks ago, and then I was invited to Apple's party, the private party, and I walked in, and it's always like very white and very like male centered, and I always feel like an outsider. Like, how do I fit in? And I have this like thought in mind that maybe as an Asian I will never get to where they are. That has been like in the back of my mind. But I think I've always wanted to inspire more Asians or people of color or whatever to just don't give up. And the Golden Eye was a really encouraging factor for me to like continue pursuing what I love. And I was also fortunate enough to be invited to schools to talk, to share my experience as an Asian coming from Asia. Like, Asian Americans aren't what I'm talking about here, because a lot of like people from Asia are interested in the like Western, like Hollywood worlds, but when I look around, I don't really see a lot of them. Well, in composition, we have a lot of people in like special effects, but in music, I just don't see a lot. So I really hope to be that. I wouldn't call first wave, but just I don't know, just inspire.
Yeah, well, that really ties in how your desire and passion for music was representing something outside of the norm for your culture, at least for the most part, what you just described, and then bringing that here and showing that you can do that is now a reflection to not only home, but also like the people that you're working with right now.
Yeah, and also The Loss of Man, as my first feature film, I didn't know that I was going to do a Western film as someone from Taiwan. And even more random, I was commissioned by Missouri Symphony Orchestra to do a fanfare, and now they play it every year as the opening for their new season. And that piece of music has been proclaimed as the anthem of the city. And that's just random that someone from Taiwan being connected with this city, Missouri. Yeah. I even met the mayor. And I went to the premiere, yeah.
No, that's great. I mean, and that shows how music is the universal language, right? And it's our jobs as musicians, when we're expressing ourselves, making ourselves vulnerable, and putting ourselves through the various emotion that we go through as musicians, to then put that feeling and that emotion and that intent into moving picture. And that's a very difficult challenge to achieve, where you're drawing on recent or not so recent experiences and the things that helped you get those skills, and then applying those to somebody else's story. So, well, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. I'm going to go over here to Shaun here and ask him a couple things here in our cross-pollination of film and music. So when you were out in New York City and LA, you decided to move here to Albuquerque, and that was a career catalyst for you. So I'm going to keep this New Mexico here. So how did being in New Mexico open doors that might not have been possible in those bigger music hubs?
I think it's small fish in a big pond versus big fish in a small pond kind of thing. It's a much closer community here. You get to meet everybody, and going to these events year after year, you really start to meet the players and know who's making movies and what movies you like and who you want to talk to. But also, I think when I moved here, I didn't have a plan. I moved here with my ex-wife, and we're like, we're gonna buy a house and have kids. Can't do it in New York. I don't want to push stroller down subway stairs. So we moved out here, and we're like, we'll figure it out. And just having the freedom, in a place that the cost of living is so low, I was able to just kind of work on a bunch of music demos for that first month. My only goal was to make as much music as I could for my friend's music library, because he had an in with Boone and Murray Productions, which makes all the bad reality TV shows, and some good ones too. But Real Housewives and Kardashians and stuff. He's like, hey man, I got an in. Let's just write a bunch of music. So I was writing a bunch of music in that first month, 1 month here, and I was like, I'm really proud of these 3, and I emailed it to just a couple friends, long-term friends. One was in LA. He's like, hey, I love this song, and we're starting Chelsea Handler's show in 2 weeks. And I almost said it, a famous A-lister gave us a song that we don't like. Can I pitch this song to Chelsea? And I was like, dude, yeah, let's go. And anyways, once that cleared, it was like I was in New Mexico for 1 month, and I already had this like calling card to my name, but I didn't know anybody. Then I had to like figure out how to network, and at that point there was like Facebook groups, and eventually I met Ivan Weiner, the guy who started AFMX, and he's like, you got to come to AFMX, and just going to as many networking events as I could. So
okay, and so with that though, what are the challenges now that you're here in Albuquerque versus in those, because composition and music for score and television is now the pandemic showed us that we can do the work remotely, and it seemed like we have kept doing that post work remotely. So with the barrier of regional or being there in those hubs have now been dissolved, what is the biggest challenges of being here, or is there any?
I don't know if those barriers have dissolved for score. I mean, yeah, I still...
Please elaborate.
Sometimes I still will get hired on some random New York production or LA production, people that I've met along the way. But I feel like my sense of it is LA likes to come here to shoot, to do the production, and then they like to go home to edit and sit down with the composer, and
so
share
it is a
in
very
person.
much in-person kind of thing.
But, it is all who you know. I do feel the limitation of being in New Mexico and trying to network and meet just, from cold calls and emails, like the New York and LA producers and stuff, and flying out there trying to take meetings, and then does anything really materialize? I don't know. I feel like, just kind of.
Yeah, no, that's a great perspective. Rick, can you share anything into this side of things? Because you're working out of
Nashville.
I'm sorry, Nashville.
Yes.
Okay, was that a misbio from my part? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's my hometown. It's
That's
Memphis.
your hometown. Okay, so you're working out of Nashville on a production that is based in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So what challenges, if any, do you face with working on that show here, but being based in Nashville?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay,
as long as there's a good internet connection. I could be in Antarctica for all I know. It's
yeah. Well, you're here with us now, so.
And this is
the
a
wonderful,
wonderful place. I love this community. Jonathan, did you disappear? Thanks for the coffee and rescuing me.
Yeah. So while we're talking here, Rick, you've been a lifelong curator of music, from supervising shows like Dark Winds, like we just talked about, and then to hosting your the Memphis radio show. But how do you see music and film as a contribution of the storytelling traditions you've been immersed in for decades?
Well, I mean, I'd love to see music get compensated on the level of importance it plays in film and TV.
I didn't want to go there just yet, but I concur.
And I feel very strongly about I really like working on projects where there are communities that are, whether it's Dene or trans or whatever. I work on projects that focus on certain communities or historical bents. That's what interests me. And those communities come before me. And so when I'm in this situation here with you wonderful people, I sort of come with an open plate or whatever and just say, or teach me. I don't come here knowing anything in a way, if that makes sense.
What resistance from producers, directors, above the line, showrunners, do you meet any resistance from the production team or when you're pursuing those things to make those connections with some possibly lesser unknown artists without big names? What do you see from above the line?
Well, fortunately, I've worked for the last 12 years with John Worth and a group of people. So we did Hell on Wheels together. We did Happen Leonard, and we're doing Dark Winds. And so they trust me. If I say, I think something fits here, I provide a number of songs so that the editors I work with have, something that I think a few songs to choose from. But I generally operate from less is more, because I always have alternates, but I want them to have enough faith in me that they believe in my confidence to say this is what I think we should do. And they've given me enough freedom also that over the years, and especially, on all three of these shows, but especially Hell on Wheels and Happen Leonard, if I felt like, composing a cue, or, by the way, one of the reasons I was late up here is I was actually turning off my Apple alerts, and this damn thing is going off all the time. Anyone who wants to tell me how to throw this in a river or something. All right. Anyway, so back to the more important stuff. I really am grateful to be in a good team of people. There's who give me a lot of rope to hang myself on.
So when you're choosing music for your editors to possibly place or to help the cadence along with the cut or with any kind of shaping the picture that they're doing, does the influence that you have of those selections come from you, or is that from the director, editor, and production?
It's usually from me.
Okay, so
and the reason why, because they just know me and they trust me. We already understand each other. We all love music, but we sort of know that a show that we're working on has a language that we've created, and so like on on Dark Winds, when I was picking songs by major artists to go in there, I avoided strings. I avoided music that had any overt geographical sense of New Orleans or Philly soul or whatever. I wanted I lean more towards the show is set in the early 70s. Okay, so everything has to be that, feeling-wise. But I sort of leaned into the artist, like, let's say, Jackson Browne or the Rolling Stones, or artists where there's an organic and a little bit of a roughness to the sound that matches the landscape a little bit. So you have to think about that. You think about the characters. We're preparing for season 5 right now on Dark Winds. And, even though the writer's room just convened, I know the characters and I sort of know the feeling of things enough that I'm already filling buckets full of songs, And I'm here, by the way, because I love being here with everyone, but if you are Dene or Native, I want to talk, if you're a songwriter, musician, Native band, I want to know what you do.
Very good. And so Ching-Shan, as a musician, and what Rick has said as being a music supervisor, as a composer, and when you're collaborating, how much freedom do you have in the instrumentation that you can put into your composition, or is that guided by something else that is coming from another place?
Well,
Like, how much freedom do you have?
Depending on if the director already has songs in mind, and if I have to weave my score into the song, then that will dictate some of the instrumentation that I'll be doing around that song. But outside of that, it's just a lot of communication with the director. But usually on a studio project, when I was brought on as an additional composer, I don't really get a chance to talk to the director, to communicate in this regard. But on the feature film that I did, I basically just came in, and he trusts me, and he said, I've heard your music, I like your music, so just take the lead. And I just came in with like 2 options, and I said, I think this will work better, and that is not so much, and the instrumentation is going to be like this, and I'm thinking about like guitar, bass guitar, and some synths, and he was just on board right away. So I think as long as the person trusts you, I feel I always have enough room for my creativity, and choose my own instrumentation.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, is that it's that level of trust, it's that confidence, and then just being able to present ideas and source that, whether it's music or composition, for the director and the team, and that we're very much part of that team. It's, the reason why I ask is because as a musician myself, and then also producing for film, I see that there's still a disconnect in the two industries of music industry and film industry, when really they're the same people, just working on different projects in different times and places. And a band, can come and go in a week, whereas a film can take 10 years to make, and that's, bridging that gap. It's still the musicians. And what I'm hearing is that we're not, even though we may come in late with post, or we might be brought into a project early on, if it's there, if that trust relationship is there from the start, we're still considered the post-production of film. And that's, the time when films run out of money. They never get, in audio post-production, it's the last stop on the train rail. It's they're out of time and out of money. And we have to work together and get back to that hustle as a musician to then maybe bring a project to completion. And so, Shaun, have you ever been in a position where you need to combine both your musicianship skills for just songwriting with a band, and also combine along with your composer skills to maybe get an emotion out that can't really be covered by a needle drop or a soundtrack?
I feel like each composer has tips in their arsenal, whatever. You got an arsenal of tools, whatever your tricks you got, what instruments you can play, out of the box ways of coming up with ideas. So definitely being a musician, me being primarily a keyboardist, yes, I dip into that quite a bit. But another one that I want to mention is, I think, Rick, we were kind of talking about this yesterday, about leaving room for happy accidents, some human mistakes. And I actually kind of do it non-human mistakes. I've created a modular synth rack. I feel like if I'm going to score something and I think about it, I write every note out, I know exactly how it's going to sound, and that's boring. There's no room for error. So when I've created this modular synth rack, if you don't know what that is, it's like the old school synths where you're patching all these plugs in, and you're trying to get sequence out some beats, and I built this huge one. I love Trent Reznor's scores, he's a big influence of mine. So I wanted to figure out how to do it. I built this big one. It's got synths, it's got sequencers, drum machines, effects. I can even take in the box sounds, choirs, libraries and stuff, and run it out through here and mangle it and delay it and feedback and get it. But anyways, I'm getting lost in the weeds. I use that thing because I don't know how to use it well. And so I try to program something that I want in my brain, and it spits it out a little wrong, a little too robotic, and it's kind of cool. that's not what I planned for. There's the chance of chaos, and I like that element of surprise. And yeah, of course, fiddle some knobs and see what happens.
I mean, that is one of the big differences, right? As musicians, we take that risk of error or happy accidents or mistakes on stage when we're performing it. However, when you're scoring for a film or sourcing music for a film, there's really not that much room for error because you have the time to get it exactly right, and so that I think that element of the two sides of the brain working, right? The technical side to make something happen, scored a picture, it's subframe accurate, but then also allowing the happy accidents to occur and there's the human nature of music to kind of come through is a great cross-pollination between those two fields. So thank you for that. That's great. And does anybody else want to touch on anything with the cross-pollination of music?
I sort of, when I'm either creating or co-creating music for a scene, and it might be something that would have been, some people would have said, do a needle drop here. Sort of, what a term, needle drop. I mean, it's sort of quaint, isn't it? Yeah. It's cylinder drop or whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
It's Spotify drop these days.
Yeah, and I don't use Spotify.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Anyway, so I tend to think scoristically. Anyway, and like in Hell on Wheels, there was a big scene where they just said, just take the teaser and run with it, and it was where a guy that was about to be hung in Mexico for having his way with the people who were about to hang him with their women, and that's the way they were looking at it, and their possessions, God. Anyway, and so I wanted to write write a song about an entitled man. And I wrote a song with Grant Lee Phillips, who's the guy who plays guitar on Gilmore Girls, walks around. And so I wanted to write a song called Favorite Son about a guy who was his mother's favorite son. He sang in the choir, lit the candles. Women loved him. It was like, why am I being hung right now for loving women? And so, we created this spaghetti western kind of piece of music. And so while he's swinging on a rope, his interior voice is, singing. So I love subversion, and I love thinking about things compositionally. And, because and fortunately, Kevin Kiner, who's been the composer for two of these last three shows, we sort of know how we work, so we don't really need to talk that much. We just sort of
right, yeah, because you're both musicians. You can speak that language of music and convey that with music terms and things. But for those directors that you're working with that don't necessarily know how to speak in musical terms, how do you bridge the gap from emotion to what you're actually scoring for? How does that communication work?
Well, I mean, whether it's picking a song for a scene or in Kevin or whatever he creates or whatever I might do, sort of the proof is in the pudding. You deliver the stuff, and if you feel.
And so is that with just here's a revision, here's a new direction, or do you ask for a reference or a temp then at that point?
Well, the editors often, it's common everywhere, are going to insert a certain amount of temp. And in the case of Kevin Kiner, he's worked on so many projects with these editors and with the showrunner and all of that. They almost have a mountain of his work anyway that they just sort of throw in there and say, okay, in this direction, but right here we need a little more of a beat. And this, in the spotting sessions, that's where all of that stuff happens. Usually when we're at that point, almost 100% the music that I've selected with the editor is it's already sort of greenlit.
So Ching-Shan, I know that Junkie XL is also a music producer as well, right? And so that's another example of how music crossed over into film. And I know that happens a lot. Trent Reznor is also, Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. They now score together. I love their scores. Looking forward to Tron 2.
Tron 4. Or is it Tron 3? Tron 3.
It's Tron. I think it's 2, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to Tron. Let's just say Tron.
Tron. Let's go. Let's go see it.
It's yeah. But the I think that a lot of times that composers or producers and musicians from the music world can get specifically selected, like Herbie Hancock, to come in and have an attempt at composing for a film. Do you see that happens a lot, or have you been in a position? Can you tell us a little bit with Junkie XL, maybe what that was like?
I think for him, like he was a DJ and a pretty big deal in Holland and also across Europe, and he came here like later in his career, and he met Hans Zimmer, and then he got into the system of remote control in LA, Santa Monica. And then Hans probably just trusted him, and also he brought in a different point of view, not like a traditional film composer. So I think that was one of the attractions why Hans trusted him, like doing a lot of films, some films together, and then eventually started doing his own films like Mad Max Fury Road, and it was like it was a very unique score to me, and like a lot of drums, a lot of like aggressiveness, and a lot of it came from like his DJ background to me, and I feel like it's easier to break into the film world, from film music world these days, if you already had a career in something else. So for me, I get brought in to do a lot of orchestral music just because I have that background. But also these days, a lot of the demand of orchestral music is, I don't know, decreasing. A lot of people want like synth, and a lot of people want to sound like Hans. So I usually find it a little upsetting, like, oh, I have all these skills, I know music theory so much, but not too many people want orchestral scores these days, like a traditional, like, John Williams kind of score.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that is somewhat of a challenge then for you to see that there's a trending, non-traditional, non-classically trained desired musician like happening.
Yeah, I mean, especially once Hans started like dominating the film music world, then everyone's like, oh, I want that kind of Brahms sound, and then everyone started doing the same thing, and also just a lot. Also, it's expensive to hire an orchestra to record. Like synth, you can just do it in the box, or
there's Vienna Symphony,
yeah,
and
so there's
lots of.
Can I jump in here?
Absolutely.
This explains something to me. Spitfire Audio makes Hans Zimmer drums, and there's Junkie XL presets on there.
Yeah.
They're so good. I use them all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So would you, each of you, just give, for our audience here and also for those watching at home, could you just give a little bit of advice for a musician that is thinking about crossing into film, and what that would look like for them if they're wanting to get into this fantastic industry, what they should maybe focus on, or what they shouldn't focus on, or any kind of advice that you can give us?
Meet people who are making movies. Just if it's a 48-hour festival, that's a great way to get. Every 48-hour team needs a composer, so that's a great place just to show up and say, "Hey, I want to score." Somebody's gonna pick you up, and at least you'll start networking. But it's all about who you know and starting a network. Don't just hide in the shadows hoping that, oh, I got this dream. No, you got to be proactive at it. You got to go out, meet people. You got to keep demoing and trying things out. Take your favorite movie, take a scene, get it off of YouTube, whatever, and just like mute it and try to score your own versions of it just to get some kind of reel together, something that you can point to on your website when someone finally wants to return your call or something. Yeah.
I think we're so fortunate to be in this world where we have internet and you can learn anything on the internet. So just whatever question that you have, whatever skills that you want to learn, just Google it or YouTube it. And there are a lot of great teachers online. And the other thing is, like I feel like film composer is an ongoing journey of finding your own voice. We're all influenced by all the giants that we admire and all that, but eventually you need to be yourself. And I think sometimes it's painful to go through that process of finding yourself. Like you might be in a writer's block, or you might go through like a breakup, some like life events might happen. But I think it's important to go through all that life experience and put yourself out there and experience whatever life can offer you, and it will in return like make your music more personal and more original and more unique. And
Yeah, that was a big talk about the other panel that AFMX had that was just geared towards musicians, is being authentic to your sound, crafting your sound, honing in on that sound, trusting it, and then sharing it.
And that will prevent you from being replaced by AI. Yeah.
This is all good advice. Really, I just I think that being authentic, I think we're blessed at a time where, you can, I mean, Apple has GarageBand, for crying out loud. It's a free thing. I mean, if you can't, I mean, the annoying thing that I've jammed under me here, I mean, I've recorded so much stuff. I mean, like I was telling one of the other things while I've been here is that the saloon piano music for Hell on Wheels was recorded on an iPhone. Most people don't know that, but it was like I just said, use your iPhone. And you'd be surprised what you can get on this. And like on the internet, gosh, YouTube is an embarrassment of riches. And for learning stuff, be true to yourself. Show up on time or early. That's one of the things that so many creatives don't understand. My daughter, when she was at the University of Georgia, I remember this years ago, and she was sort of going through a little period where she was hanging around with her other creatives at the coffee shop, bitching about how they weren't going to be sellouts, and I got that. I agree with you. But in this industry, as much as you want to say it or not, it's like they're A+ assholes that are A+ creative. And most people they'll be happy with a B+ who shows up on time and is just a good hang. It's seriously, if you just be kind, just be transparent so they know that you don't have weird agendas or something. Don't clutch at people. Don't push the river. Things will come to you if you just follow your heart and honor those around you by honoring their time and who they are. This is just simple life stuff. Really, you know what I mean? I've said a thing at the high school yesterday. Another thing, if you're professional, you create something, you find a piece of music and you think, oh man, this is the greatest thing. And then, the showrunner or director says, well, I don't feel it. Don't sell it. They already told you they don't feel it. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't tell people how they feel. It's like girlfriend, boyfriend, marriage 101. You can't tell people how they feel. Just respect that, they don't feel it, and be ready with an alternate or a few that are right. You know what I'm saying? And if those aren't right, work your hardest to make sure that they feel something. I mean, it's not about you. It's about the project And the projects that are the most successful ones are where people honor each other and they're kind and they show up.
Yeah, can I pick up on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just don't have an ego. That's it. Yeah, you make something, you can't be attached to it. You know, we create something out of love. We can destroy it out of love. If it's really good, I put it in a folder on my computer. I'm like, I'm going to use that for something else. It wasn't right for this project. We are here to serve the director's
Absolutely.
vision. Whatever the direct, you know, my day job before this for 15 years, I was a graphic designer. And all you're trying to do is just get things approved. You know, revisions, okay, can we get approved? So just to put your ego aside, and that's it. Just get the job done.
The short one. I've been to a lot of social events in LA, and it can be overwhelming. And any social events can be overwhelming to composers because we like just spending time by ourselves. So we can be socially awkward. But what I find is a little turn off for me is when people keep talking about themselves. I think it will be very helpful for us and for that person to listen more, listen to what other people do and what their life journey is like, what their career is like, and instead of making it about you, it's about people around you.
Yeah, well, there's a saying that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. Right? So.
Yeah, one of the things, exactly what you said. You know, when you're trying to make an entrance and be accepted in, you know, the tribe you want to be a part of or whatever, it's like there's a tendency to oversell yourself. And if you're in the room, you're in the room. You don't have to do anything unless someone asks you. You're in the room. So you don't need to dance around and say, hey, look at me, I'm in the room. You're going to put people off. So
Okay, well, that's great. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just getting lost in the thoughts there because this is touching on the other discussions that we've had at this festival, and so it's very refreshing to hear that's coming from professionals of your stature. So thank you so much for that. Let's see what else can we talk about here. So okay, I got a good one. When you are taking on a project, and anyone can just chime in here, I'm not going to call names anymore, this is in class. But when you're starting off on a project, like walk us through your process of getting bidding on the project or putting yourself in front of the people that are going to take you on to a project, starting the project, delivering the project, and then getting paid for the project. Basically anywhere you want to start, but how do you start your process?
Why do you always make me go first? Well, let's see. Each project is completely different, comes at you completely different, and you need to react differently, right? But you definitely need to figure out the money situation in the early days. You don't want to be working for free. I like here's how I'm going to approach this answer. Okay, thank you. I bought enough time. I read about Trent Reznor's method of demoing for David Fincher. And what he does is he'll read the script. Fincher's maybe out in the world already starting to shoot it, but Reznor has seen nothing. He's got the script. He's just kind of generating these little demos, weird electronic soundscapes, and he's sending 10 or 12 over every couple days. And so Fincher starts cutting. He's like, hey, number 7 was pretty cool. Hey, at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, I need the song to abruptly shift to this thing. And so they're shaping based on demos. So once I read that, I realized how important the demo stage was to me. What I want to do, I think about scoring as a producer. I want to create a new hybrid sound combination that's never been heard before for each project. I did a kid zombie movie, so I used children's musical instruments, but I mangled them and distorted them and did stuff like that. On a recent thing that I demoed up, this script was really strange, and I realized it was going to be driven by a lot of sound design of this office place. So I found all these royalty-free samples of office space, ambiance. I created a 4-minute loop, ran it through my modular effect rack, just twisting things, twisting knobs, looping. I did a 40-minute performance. I cut into 10 sample packs, 12 loop sets, And that was just like this weird, it'd start with like a nice sound of whatever. You could make out what it was, and then it slowly gets like monstrous, distorted, And then I just put this little eerie piano around it, not even doing much, and just created a vibe. But, each project finding a way in to connect to it, and then hoping the director doesn't say, hey, that sucked.
Well, for me, I always just wanted to get through the painful like negotiation part and get it done, sign it off, and then I can put my head in the creative space, and that's when the fun happens. And I think to me, like I really value really trying to understand what the director wants. So I know that some directors want to like try this, try that, and try this. But from my experience, I've always favored people who have a more clear vision what they want, and I'm here in service of fulfilling their vision and helping and guiding them. And I feel like spotting sessions is what I really a lot of like some studio projects, they don't really do a lot of spotting sessions these days, and to me that's the most intimate moments with the director and just the two of us in the room, or sometimes producer or whatever. But that's when I'm sort of guiding the director to tell me what he actually wants from from a broad adjective like sad, whatever, to then okay, what kind of sad, and then like starts narrowing down to details, and then we can like we can pinpoint on okay, this is what we want to avoid a lot of unnecessary revisions down the road. And I know I've had to do not a lot, but I've done some rewrites before, and that's because when they suddenly change their direction, and it happens, and it sucks because it always happens when we run out of time. Like on
last minute decision.
Yeah, like on
we need this different.
Yeah, and like on Sonic 3, I had to rewrite someone else's cue, and it was like 12 a.m. I got a text from the music editor. It's like the director wanted to change the direction, blah blah blah, and we need it by tomorrow, and like no one values. No, this when you mention like filmmaking is such a long process, the people in pre-production don't really know what happens in post-production. Yeah, so I feel like it is necessary for film composers to learn how film music works, and film composers need to learn how a film is made, so that we can appreciate each other's crafts and appreciate the value and also the time that it needs to make a new version of something, like a 3 or 4 minute cue. They just think that, oh, boom, like we can just change a few notes. And a lot of them think that way. Like, oh, don't you just like move it around? I just added like 2 seconds here. That's like easy. But no, like it ruins the pace, and yeah, like to conform a cue is the most annoying and daunting process.
Where those 2 beats come from? You have to add 2 beats musically. It's like what?
And it doesn't fit the tempo. Yeah. So it's like have like So after all that is sorted out, then yeah, we get to mixing and dubbing. So that's pleasant. But yeah.
This is fun. Gosh. My process, generally speaking, if I'm working on a show, and I guess in part because I've been working with a lot of the same team, so I just when something has been, okay, we're starting on this season, it's like a year-round job for me. It's like I'm already looking for music months before they're even going to be going into post. And the way my deal is that I worked out is just basically I want to get every iteration of every script. I want the season Bible. I want to get every daily that is put out every single day. I want to see every cut. And my relationship, fortunately, with the editors that I work with is the music, I do my own editing, and will sometimes lay the music into the film to show the directors or producer or whatever, this is what I have in mind. I want it to start here. I want it to go here. I'll ride the levels. And, I have editors who I'll say, all right, send me a quick time with what was the temp or the song that we're going to replace. I want the temp with handles so I can sort of vibe into the thing. I'll lay it into Final Cut, and then I'll do a thing, and I'll send it back out. In fact, right now I'm supposed to be laying in an opera song to a scene when a label decided to triple their fee at the last minute. And fortunately, I had very good recordings of the same classical piece by others who would work with me. But things like that happen all the time. Negotiating a deal. I've been with a couple of major agencies. I don't have an agent now. Everything I've done, I've found myself. And I generally said, this is what I want. And, it's sort of weird. I don't talk about money until I get called by legal department or something. And by then, I've already expressed with the showrunner or something what I have in mind.
Lucky.
Well,
Must be nice.
Listen, I'm really
No, but yeah, I mean, not to challenge you on that or say luck is involved at all. What I think what we're hearing here as filmmakers out there, you're seeing three different ways of achieving the goal that you want from your composer.
I mean,
and it's the elements of the financing, and it's the elements of the cues and the spotting and the getting the emotion, the intent of the piece. And then it's also the room for like experimenting. So as a filmmaker, I think it's really valuable to have those kind of have that terrain already explored in what you want from your composer, because that goes a long ways in that process when we're running out of time, when we're running out of money to make that film, which sound is 50% of it, when we're making it the best that we can make it for you. So.
One thing that I'll just say is
keep
that
on going.
I'm sorry. I learned the hard way when I first started on Hell on Wheels that, you have a budget to do your music with, And I thought, well, I'm going to be a hero and just get everything, save the money. So at the end of the season I worked on the show with him, it was like I was $40,000 under. And I thought, man, these guys are going to think I'm the shit, And I learned the lesson that when you come in under budget, they say, good work. We'll cut your budget even more next year. And so I always make it a point to spend every damn penny and then some. This is my money. I'm going to spend every bit of it and then maybe 10% more. So they'll,
What's great is like the talk, the center stage discussion before us was a bunch of producers up here trying to say, we don't know how to get the money. Just go find the money and we'll make the film for you. And here we are talking about how we spend it.
It's such a concept, because I know what it's like, for years struggling and trying to pay your bills and keep the lights on, literally. And I've been there. So when you first start moving into projects where they actually have a budget, it's sort of like there's a part of you, almost like imposter syndrome, that goes, I'm not worthy. What do I do with this stuff, And then finally that season it was like, oh, I spend it, And believe me, spend it.
Rick, why didn't you buy a $40,000 guitar at the end of that? I mean, that's what I would have done.
Well, you know what? If thinking now, it's sort of funny because the budget is such a sensitive thing. Like my budget per episode on Dark Winds is not amazing, but it's really pretty damn good too at the same time. And so, can I dovetail into the?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So, like, for example, how many of you are familiar with the show Dark Winds? Okay, a few of you. And, okay, so in that show, the landscape, 1972, it's sort of generally shot out on the res, and it looks like the same place that the dinosaurs tromped around in. You know, you can't see 1972 on anything. And, you know, most of the people who aren't in there, who aren't officers, they're wearing plaid shirts and beat up jeans and driving shitty cars, just like Americana people do in Tennessee where I live. So it's like there's not a whole lot that screams that era. So the music has to carry a very big weight. And so, and like I said earlier, the community, in this case, the Dene community, first, Native community, is extremely important to me to make sure that they get as much love as possible. I also need these big bands. So over the course of Dark Winds, I first reached out to Bob Dylan's people, who I'd worked with in the past, and Neil Young, and I just sort of said, look, I can't, do you guys know that in licensing things are split in sides? There's a publishing half, there's a master half. So if I say it's 50,000 a side, that means you're going to drop 100K, okay? So, you know, a lot of these really big bands I was approaching, they're used to getting 30, 40, 50 a side, you know, and for, you know, some projects. And so I went to them and I said, look, I'm not going to pay you that. I can't. I can only pay you 15. But it'll be MFN, Most Favored Nations, which means that anyone who gets paid more than your deal becomes elevated to their deal. So I said for the entire season, which is a sort of a creative way. But what you're helping me do is you're going to help me pay the native artist a lot more than they've ever gotten. And I pay them $7,500 a side. Most people who aren't native, modern rockers, Americana would kill for $7,500 all in, not to mention a side. So that's 15 grand if you own the master and the sync. So, you know, one of the reasons I'm up here is, aside from being very grateful to be here among such kind and talented people, is I'm here looking for possible talent that I might be able to put into future seasons of Dark Winds or maybe something else. The only thing that I require is that the show is set in 1972. I learned very quickly that in this part of the world, the native culture loves hip-hop and death metal. So, you know, that didn't exist in 1972. Nothing against those forms of music. So someone has to plausibly be able to send me music or create something that feels like that era or earlier. You know, it could be singer-songwriter, it could be, or, you know, a lot of Americana music now could easily have been early Jackson Browne or early Bonnie Raitt. You know what I'm saying? But you have to think about the reverbs and sounds, so you don't send me something that could have been that kind of music, but it's got 80s and 90s compression and snare drum gates on it. You know, that's not going to fly. But, you know, I've actually had one case, talking about the iPhone, fantastic singer, songwriter, guitarist, and I just said, look, just throw your iPhone on a stool 6 feet back or 4 feet back and just mess with it until you find a balance and sing it, perform it. You know, and I got a piece of music and that cost him nothing. And, you know, so I'm not a purist about a lot of that kind of stuff. I don't care how it comes to me as long as it makes me feel, and then makes the showrunner feel. You know, one bit of advice, if any of this interests you, is that a long time ago, I had a good friend of mine tell me in a very early project, and when I was sort of bitching about something I was doing and it wasn't, they were handing me crappy music, you know. And he said, Rick, if they want the dancing crickets and you think the dancing crickets suck, throw a few dancing crickets in there. You'll get really what you are happy with, and you can live. And the other thing I remember was that don't ever take shit personally. You know, it rains on you and it rains on your art, but no one is doing it to you. They're just doing it. We're all just trying to create something and get to the next damn day. And you can't personalize it, because if you personalize it, you sort of are, you're over, because you just start carrying that vibe, and you can't do that. Anyway, that's.
Yeah, well, great. I'm just like, yes, you know, focusing inside and being like, oh, okay, it's not just me, okay. But no, that's great, and thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that side of the, you know, with the sides with publishing. So there's mechanical licensing and sync, and then copyright, you know, for all the licensing. So you said there's sides here. I'll open up the question over here to our other fine composers. Have you ever made a push to get the publishing rights for the music that you've composed or scored?
Yeah, on the feature film or indie, like I tend to just, yeah.
That's just part of it, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a part of it. Yeah,
that's
because
part of the deal.
there's no point of the director or whoever holding on to the publishing right, because they're not gonna have anything to do with music after they, release the film. But the composers really need it. We're okay with being underpaid. Like, just give us some like dignity.
And so how does that look then when you are holding on to your publishing rights? Can you use that piece or that composition for anything else?
What I do real quickly, I'm sorry, forgive me. What I do real quickly, especially when the budgets are low, every artist keeps their publishing, and I negotiate the deal to where I give the production the right on behalf of the artist to use the music not only in the movie but also in festivals if they want to use it in trailers or things like that, because but they own it. They're free to use it anytime for anything else, you know.
Yeah, the perpetual license. A lot of directors, like younger directors, I don't know if they teach this at school or something, but they're in their knowledge, they need to own the music to sell it to. They just don't want to deal with anything like, oh, if I'm selling,
for clearances,
then for clearances,
for
yeah.
clearances and
But the
copyright.
perpetual,
So they try to own
Yeah.
everything, so there's nothing catching up with them that would prohibit them from getting international distribution, things like that.
But for the perpetual license, they get whatever they need, and
it's for that clip in the film. It's for that passage in the film, right? So if you use a song for 25 seconds, you're not going to have the entire song in there. You're only using it. That is what the film's publishing carries or covers, or the distribution covers, is just that little sliver of that.
Yeah. And I think if you own the publishing, then it only comes it will matter more when you want to release your music. I think.
Which you can do
like,
then.
If you have publishing, then.
If you have publishing, it can be put in like a discography or used in other areas as well. Is that what it gives you, or is there exclusivity to the film project for what you wrote?
I think it's negotiable. I think.
That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's what I was saying.
That's what I want to get into.
Is that, it's sort of weird. A composer is an artist.
Right.
So to me, you create something, unless you're just getting paid stupid money and, it's Disney requiring your life and everything, it's like, I think it's important for a composer, artist, to own their stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the ad stuff that I've done, it's it is work for hire. So you don't own nothing by the end of it, but it's okay. They are supposed to pay you more because they're buying out your rights. The Netflix Chelsea Handler theme that I did, the way that Netflix operates for theme songs is they buy it outright, at least at that stage. So I had to sell all the rights, which was fine with me because it was a much bigger check. It would have pissed me off if that show would have gone more than the 2 seasons. If it was like 10 seasons, I'd be like, damn it, publishing, but it worked out.
I think only on
It's all sort of a per case basis.
yeah, I think only on studio level films, then it's not gonna happen. Like like Universal, then they're gonna take publishing. But
Right,
on
yeah.
indie level, like we can negotiate anything.
Yeah, so there are those two sides because obviously, Warner Brothers, Universal, that have publishing houses of their own. Sony, even Apple now, I believe, as well. With iTunes, they're now like a kind of a publisher. But okay, well, great. That's fantastic information.
Just on publishing, because to me that's, in a lot of cases, that's like found money. You know what I mean? It's almost like a creative land grab, and someone just says, hey, I want the publishing. Well, what are you going to do to exploit it outside of this one thing? It's got a life. I mean, what if it is going to be used, I have an opportunity to use it, or another artist wants to cover that instrumental to that piece, and you have the publishing, you did nothing but just basically seize half of, you know what I'm saying? It's a tough thing, because in some cases, like let's say on Netflix or whatever, if part of the deal is well, we have the publishing for the theme song, I mean the theme of the movie, then or the show, then that's another thing. But you should be paid in a way that dignifies you for being good enough to be that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, is that for work for hire, commercial work, theme songs, things like that, you're basically contributing to the brand that they're building. And so that needs to kind of be tied to that production. Whereas if you're, if you're, the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin or something, and BMW wants to feature your song in a commercial to sell more BMWs, then it's a different kind of thing. So it really just does depend on the work. And so, okay, well, great. Let's see, what other things can we cover here? Is there anything that I'm not leaving out, Rick?
I want to add one quick thing, because the artist or well-known artist who agreed to lower their fees, I wouldn't be, that my idea wouldn't have happened without their support and without the publishers and the masters. So it's not like, hey, I did a cool thing. Everything is a team effort. They bought into the idea that the native community and the musicians, creators, are long overdue getting their proper thing. But the fact that these publishers and labels and major artists, I mean, I don't want to look like I'd have pulled one over on major legacy artists. Am I making sense?
No, absolutely.
I mean, you can't take any of it for granted.
Well, that's, it's interesting because I've been in a position where I was exploring music licensing, and there's a couple different ways, of course, to license it. But if you are dealing with a musician or trying to license a piece of work where the artist is still alive, you may have better chances of licensing that music versus dealing with the estate of that musician or artist. Whereas, they may say, oh, this is a money grab for us. And they won't be able to look at it from the passion side or from the art side as the musician might. So, there's a lot of gray areas here with putting music and composition to film, and yeah, this is just like one of the caveats of that is dealing with the mechanical licensing, the sync licensing, and the copyright licensing, because they're all intertwined, and they all come into play. So why don't we start with you, Shaun? You want to tell us a success story of putting your music into a film, something like you're really, really proud about that went somewhere that you maybe didn't think that it would go, or you want to share a successful interaction with a director or a project that maybe took
Okay, you've given me enough options.
Yeah,
I can
keep
answer.
on going
I
until
can
you
answer
think of
some.
an answer for one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what initially drove me to want to write music for film was hearing some really beautiful piano pieces, like the Forrest Gump theme song. You know, I was like 12 or 13, whatever. And I remember I just loved it. I was like, this is simple and it's beautiful and it's heart. It gave me goosebumps, you know. And having that in the movie theater goosebump moment. And then later, some Thomas Newman, Shawshank Redemption, American Beauty. And so I think the first time that I was scoring a movie and I had the goosebump moment, I was like, hell yeah. This is something. I mean, there's some songs that, you know, you create, you're actually thinking about what chords you're playing, what notes you're playing. But when something just moves through you, you're like, oh, this is like some otherworldly, you know, spiritual thing that's happening. And that was just an amazing moment. And of course, like that's happened maybe 2 or 3 times. And, you know, I've only scored like 4 or 5 features. But, you know, every time that happens, the director, holy shit, that was good. We're not changing a note, you know, like, yeah, those are great moments.
Well, for me, I feel like being able to write music is given, but I think my success story will be like, I don't know, getting better at socializing, and that's like a big part of being a film composer too. Just being a great person, because I like observing, and I always like see in the room like who's doing what, and because like a lot of the details tell you what kind of person that is. And I've observed that when my coworker is talking about some other collaborators, they always emphasize that he or she is a great person, even before like talking about like she's talented or he's talented. It's more important to be like people need to want to hang out with you as friends before they want to work with you, because they're stuck with you for 4 months. And I've had a tough choice where this director came up. He wrote an email to me. Someone recommended my name to this director, and I've seen the rough cut of his documentary, beautifully shot. And when it comes to negotiation, then I started seeing how little he values music, and he used like other people's price to lowball me, even though I already know the other person that he's talked to. And we neither of us ended up doing his project, because in my mind I was just thinking, do I want to just bite the bullet and just put up with this asshole for another 3 months and get the check, or maybe not? But he basically wants it. Okay, a lot of directors want it fast, cheap, and good, and you can only choose like 1 or 2 of them. Yeah, they're trying. Yeah, and you can't get it all if your money is not enough. Like you just need to compromise. Just like shooting, like you can't get the perfect scene, then you can't. So that was. But then I became a better negotiator, and plus the socializing. I feel like that has really brought my career further. Like, of course, like on the side, I would work on like my crafts and music and all that. But I've learned that just socializing is like being good at that is like not a success story, but I think.
Fantastic right now.
Thank you.
She's working on her pool skills a little bit.
By the way, she's a hell of a piano player. I guess my success story is that I'm still standing and working at 71 years of age. You know, I don't know. Every day I'm just thankful I'm working, and I'm thankful I meet wonderful people, and that's the richest feeling. I mean, I'm just grateful as hell to be right here.
All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. Let's give a big round of applause for our panel today.